what quality, well, the question is what qualities should a mentor have, but I'll just say, give me 2 qualities that you find that any mentor, that anybody who's looking at being a mentor, excuse me, if someone's looking at somebody to be a mentor, what are the 2 biggest qualities that mentor should have?
I think for me is passion. Again, my high school teacher, her name is Miss Golday, shout out to her, is that she's very passionate in what she does. And even now as a retired teacher, she's still in her effort to help with the community and just, that's, you can just see it. So I think passion is a huge thing. And I think I've learned a lot from her. And I'm attributed to her because she's my quote first formalized mentor. But as I progress through my career, every stage, kind of as Jesus mentioned, you have someone there to help you one way or another to professionally grow. So I think having someone who's passionate in what they do, and you can sense it, you can sense their passion, they love what they do, and just it's infectious. And I think having a mentor who's that passionate about their career, their, just being there for you, I think is really important. The other piece is being patient. I would go back to my first mentor, and then all the mentors that I have had in my life, from undergrad actually, start out to pharmacy school to now I'm a manager. I have mentors, by the way, and patience, because they help you go through some of your challenges, and they sit down with you and listening to you. So I know you asked for 2, but ability to listen, right?
Okay.
Like when you sit down with them, is you really doing the talking. You're there to facilitate. They may ask some questions, but it's really you driving the conversations. And sometimes we get to the solution when we start talking too. But they are really patient with you and really trying to solicit things out of you without giving you a directive on, oh, this is what you should do. It's just, okay, based on that, I think this is what you can do.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Okay, Jesus.
Yeah. The first thing I wrote down was able to listen, and I totally agree. I think a lot of people who will expect mentors to, depending on the person's drive, they'll expect mentors to tell them XYZ, to do this and this and that. But I think everyone is at a different place of learning and need. And the only way that the mentor is going to find out where that person is if they listen. That's first and foremost. And, depending on the mentor, they're going to be helping you in a lot of different parts of your life, not just professionally. But, if you're going through a crisis, if you're if you're having an emotional crisis, if you're going through family stuff, and mentors telling you to do this and this and that, and you're not listening because you just lost your whatever. I think first and foremost is being a good listener. And kind of the other one is difficult to nail it down to 2. I think the first thing I think about, other than listening, is that person usually has something that you want. Something about either that person, their position, or they whatever it is, that something that they have that you want. They have a great marriage, they have great kids, they're happy, they are energetic, who knows, right? There's something about them that you are drawn to, and you want for yourself, that you need to have that in order to really to have that back and forth. When they speak, you listen, and if they listen to you, it can be a strong relationship. So they got to have something you want, I think.
Got it. Okay, that is good. And so kind of taking that a step further, clearly they have something that you want. So talk about the frequency of the communication. How often are you meeting? How often should you be talking, whether it be emailing, text, phone calls? Just talk about that, the communication for a second. And we'll start. Jesus, we'll keep it going with you.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it depends. I think it depends on what it is, what the project is, how big the scope is that you're getting mentored for, how close your relationship is with your mentor. If it's if this is one of those lifelong mentors that Anne was talking about, that she still communicates with them regularly, it might be text messaging them frequently, or when every time you're back in town, you go get coffee and talk about life, or when you're in a crisis situation. If it's a more formal, more discreet, I know GMS has been good about kind of assigning mentors for people who are coming into the program. It can be, I think sometimes it's nice to be more regimented, because life can take over. And if you don't regiment those discussions somehow with check-ins once a month or something at a minimum, oftentimes you don't really get the full benefit of having a mentor. So I think in the initial stages, and this is my personal preference, in the initial stages, having a more time-intensive investment up front to get to know each other, to really get to know each other as much as you can, or as much as is comfortable, is best. If you're doing it cross country, I mean, now with Zoom and video conferencing, you can really
Definitely.
get to know someone a lot better than before. Yeah, I think hour-long talks could be pretty easy when you're talking about each other's lives. And when you're getting to know each other, once a week is pretty easy to do when you really invested for a while. And then after you kind of get your bearings, and it depends on the project. If it's for instance, I think I'll take my last example of writing my application to medical school. We were texting, emailing. I was pulling all-nighters, so I was emailing in the middle of the night. It was like no holds barred, and that if it's appropriate, that's appropriate. So anyway, but it just depends to me. It depends, but I think frequent upfront at a minimum, you got to be frequent upfront to get to know each other.
Yeah, I agree
That's
with
great advice.
Yeah, I agree with Jesus on that point regarding, and I think it really depends on the relationships and what you need, right? Like, I think, let's say when you're in college, you need to build a relationship with a professor for a project. It's more defined. So you probably want to do it more regularly, like weekly, depending on the projects or whatever that you try to accomplish, like get a job, like an internship. So a weekly or bi-monthly, those type of to be more structured. And it could be as simple as, and I would recommend it's actually trying to change it up. You don't have to do in person every time, and especially this coronavirus is not recommended. So, but you can do it remotely in a sense of do a mix of, hey, first trying to get a face-to-face on the first meeting, if possible. If not, then of course use technology to get some sort of FaceTime in there. Then interchange that being on the phone or having the mentees yourself emailing updates. Just say whatever that was the follow-up or needed to be follow-up on the first meeting, make sure you do by email. And kind of, 1 month you can do email, next month could be in person, and another month could be over the phone, just to change it up. And I think the biggest thing when you are a mentee is being respectful of your mentor term. Oftentimes these individuals are, they have a full life in terms of their career, their family, whatever else is going on, their involvement. So be respectful of their time. So if you really say, hey, I'm gonna set out for 1 hour a week, you are actually the one taking initiative. Like you should put a calendar invite onto your mentee's inbox. You should be the one proactively asking, put things out for the agenda. Like, hey, for next Friday, and I want to talk about how to get an internship. And these are the internship I've looked at. And these are the questions I want to ask for the interview as a mock. Just be very specific what you want. How long is that conversation going to be? Don't hold your mentor captive for half a day just because you can and it may not be. So be very, very intentional from that standpoint. And I think that will also help them understand that, okay, they will help you, but of course, right, everybody's busy and like life gets in the way. So you just want to be intentional. One tip I would give is set a recurring meeting. So let's just say that first meeting, setting our expectation, asking them, ask your mentor, what is the best way to communicate with you? Is that your work email? Is that your personal email? Do you prefer phone calls? Do you prefer text? Because everybody communicate differently. I think with millennials, we tend to be more tech savvy, so text wouldn't be an issue. Or, you know, calling each other, we probably don't call each other as much compared to older generations. So what is their style in terms of preference for communication? And then be able, the biggest thing I want to share is follow up. So, you know, don't show up the first meeting and then you're basically MIA for the rest of the year. And then you probably send out an email like, oh, hey, it's been a year since we talked. I'm actually looking for a job now, so you can help me for a job. It just doesn't look very genuine. Like, it just, even though you may preface it, oh, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Like, you do all this fluff, but in the end, you're like, so now I need a job, right? Like, it's not genuine. And going back to Jesus' point about building a relationship is a long-term investment that you put in, and even as infrequently or as, you know, once every 3 months, whenever, just a check-in, be like, hey, Ann here, you know, we chat last month and this is what I did. Just even like a 2-liners, just to keep the mentor in the loop. And I think I've been in scenarios where I help someone with something, and for me personally, I find it very rewarding to know what was the outcome. Like, did you get the job? Did you get the internship? Did the interview went well? I mean, what happened, right? So it's kind of going back, aligning, like when you do an interview, make sure you write thank you cards. In the same way, just loop back in, like, what was the outcome? Because, you know, these individuals spend time and invest time with you, so they want to know, how did that turn out? Like, how did the conversation come about? I know that's a pretty long answer, but I just really want to keep folks in mind that be proactive, be intentional, and be respectful.
Awesome, awesome. That's great information. I want to kind of piggyback